Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. Hello, everybody. So glad to be here with you again. And I'm here with opens my heart so wide open being with my guest today, Doria Cordova. Welcome to the podcast show.
Thank you. So happy to be here with you.
So we were talking before we got on, and I'm more excited than ever for the interview now. Just everything we wanted to almost get into conversation before we got things rolling. We're so excited. So we're going to be talking about the socially responsible entrepreneur and how they will save the world, and especially for those of you who have these amazing, gifts and ideas to support the evolution of the planet. Doria is on a mission to support you, and sincerely from her heart. So I'm really looking forward to, you're going to be so blown away by the things that she's already done in the world. And I'm going to share about that right now. So Doria Cordova is the CEO and owner of Excellerated Business Schools and also Money and You program, the organization that brought to the world experiential, transformational, entrepreneurial education, now both off and online since 1979, with over 165,000 graduates from over 85 countries. The program, it's amazing. The program has inspired some of today's best known business education and wealth experts, and has touched the lives of millions globally. She is a humanitarian, philanthropist, and author, and has been in countless webinars, podcasts, films, and book series. Currently, she has developed the Fridays with Doria, a weekly global event to support her network and friends. And I've been wanting to be a part of it. I'm going to get in there soon. And I've heard so many good things about this from lots of people. She is a global business developer for organizations that are in alignment with her purpose to uplift humanity's consciousness through socially responsible businesses. Much needed. One of her missions is to transform educational systems around the world. Doria, maybe we should talk a little bit more about that after the show, and eradicate poverty and hunger. All the endeavors that she is involved in must be in alignment with that mission. And I'm just so grateful to have you here, Doria.
I'm happy to be here. And I am so moved by anybody, that is doing work to encourage people to do products and services that add value to humanity. And so I'm happy to be here with you and to provide whatever I can for your audience to help them to really achieve their goals and to even become more successful. Already they are, if they're choosing products and services that add value to humanity. So
yeah, let's get into it. Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about your, the story of your background that I'm interested in and sharing with the audience is you are one of those spiritual rock stars in my eyes, that it's made big impact and continues to expand, right? So I love for you to, share something about that. What got you turned on to do the work you're doing today in terms of being inspired by spirit, or however you look at it, but like, what is the impetus for your purpose? What got you into it is what I'm trying to say. Like, what often people have some sort of, struggle or crisis in their life that kind of leads them deeper into their purpose. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Well, most people that are doing very deep spiritual work have had something pretty horrific or something has happened that has woken them up. So I am not an exception. So a very short history. I grew up in Chile, was brought to the United States by my family when I was 12, typical teenager in California, in Los Angeles. And then I had a horrific start of life. 3-4 months before high school graduation, I was engaged to be married. In the late 60s, you got married at 18. So we don't do that anymore, but we did then. And my beloved was killed in a car accident a month before we were going to be married. And I didn't know it, but I was pregnant, and I lost the baby the day after his birthday on July. He died in March, on July. And pretty much what happened for me was that I shut down my heart completely for the next 8 years. And so I grew up, I became a workaholic in order to really suppress a lot of the sadness. But it had not only happened with him that he passed away, then we had an additional 13 friends. We had the Vietnam War, drug overdose, accidents, a couple of some pretty horrific deaths in jail, things like that. You know, I grew up in LA, what can I tell you? And it was this early 70s. And so I really shut down my heart. 14 friends later, 2 miscarriages later, I was ready to absolutely just, I was an angry, very, very sweet girl, always sweet, but very angry at God. So I shut my heart completely for 8 years. And of course, I ended up being a court reporter in the criminal court systems in Los Angeles. And to make a long story short, there were a series of things that occurred that I can now see that the Great Spirit really brought on. And I ended up moving to Hawaii. And most people don't realize it, but Hawaii and every beautiful place on planet Earth really begins to heal your spirit. And that's what happened for me. And so when I was 26 years old, I actually had an enlightenment experience, and I felt, not heard, but felt this energy that says, I did not put you on planet Earth for you to be a party girl. You have a job to do. And it was like, what? What does that mean? And one thing led to another. And as you can see, I have sayings and the map of Buckminster Fuller over here. I met Buckminster Fuller at my young age of 27 years old in a huge event. The Hunger Project had just started. And I had all this business background from being in the court system at that time for 7 years. First, I was an assistant legal secretary, then an interpreter, then an official court reporter. So I had this combination of business sense. I had been around business so much, but at the same time, I had had my enlightenment experience, and then I met Buckminster Fuller. And remember, Buckminster Fuller is the gentleman that took us and introduced the idea to us on how to really move from scarcity to sufficiency to abundance. And then, of course, a year later, I ended up doing the first business school for entrepreneurs of its kind. So I was doing a combination of human potential. Oh, I forgot a big detail. I did the S training about a month and a half after my enlightenment experience. So I had now begun to have a grasp of some of the powerful human potential movement processes. But at the same time, I was also very grounded on business and in the world, because when you work in the criminal court, that's what you have. So it was that got me started for me to have a combination of generalized principle, of spiritual principles, of the energies that, whether you believe them or not, they run your life, they run the universe. Well, it's just like gravity. Gravity is a generalized principle. Whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. The same thing, leverage is a generalized principle. And so it's one of the big principles that Buckminster Fuller taught us, which is precession, the physics of ripple effects. So I now became an experiment. Like, that's what Mr. Fuller used to say, that every human being is an experiment. And so now you fast forward 42 years later, and I am the sum total of experimenting with love, with light, with applying principles in business and to the world that adds value to humanity, not take away from it. And just living a simple life. I actually have a very simple life. My beloved and I both live in San Diego and on Maui. Of course, with the pandemic, we've been home for 7 months in San Diego, but we live a very beautiful, peaceful life, and at the same time picking up a lot of speed in order to support my huge network. So that gives you a little bit of a background. Everyone else can read my bio, and thank you for reading it. But everybody knows me as being steeped in consciousness principles, but also being very grounded. I teach, and my programs teach, my Money and You program, our business school, is all about creating income generating activities, using leverage, having good marketing tools. We really are very steeped in that too, but always powered by a higher purpose.
Yeah, I mean, and wow, thanks for sharing all that. It was really awesome to hear your life journey. I mean, that was really amazing, heart opening again. So and because I know there's a lot of people listening that again they've been going through a lot, and what comes in for a lot of people is are things ever going to change for me? I mean, maybe they're trying to get something going. They got some big thing they want to do in the world, or maybe they're starting to get it going, but it's not going to where they want it to go, right? So people get stalled out at different places. So when you come across people who, again, are more, especially the spiritually oriented social entrepreneur types, and I know you've worked with a lot of them. So what do you find like are some of the most common challenges that they're running into when they have like, man, I want to do this, I want to transform the education system, I want to change the healthcare system, I want to save the planet, or whatever they're saying, right? What are the biggest challenges they're facing and being able to actualize that? I mean, that's kind of a big question, but
Oh,
yeah.
no, I'm used to that question.
Okay.
I love that question. So basically, I'd like to give everyone a gift. And you're going to have a link for them, and that link is going to take them to Money and You. And Money and You, we are in the process of revamping all of our web pages, just so you know. But they will find at the bottom, they will find a free book, which is called the Business Success Model, and Accelerated Business Success Model. And what that is a tool for people to understand that there are formulas to making money. And there's also, it's a combination of things. It's much more than 2-3 dimensions. I mean, we are really multidimensional beings at every level, and every level. So what we have to do, especially when you're spiritual, you need to really understand that it is okay for you to be wealthy. And that's another gift that I was, talking to you, that we really need to give to everyone, especially spiritual people, because this is what I had to do when I was 27 years old. Because when I began to discover spirit, and I was an official court reporter, I knew how I earned my money. I knew that I was trading time for money. I had already started practicing leverage a little bit. So remember this, how you create money is by either being involved in income generating activities and also creating leverage for future monies that you're going to create and expanding and growing. So I was already starting to use leverage. I knew that, I had already set systems in place that not only did I make money on my own, but I could leverage resources and networks and professionals and the money that I had to giving me and creating spending the money on what is called capital tools. Capital tools are tools that make more money for you. So if you have a transportation company, you buy better trucks. When you are a court reporter, you buy a better Selectric typewriter. This is the 70s, you hire better transcribers. You begin to use your money for things that are going to facilitate you creating more money. Now, let me just say something real quickly here. A lot of people may not know that I was in business partnership with Robert Kiyosaki of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. He actually, the first Rich Dad Poor Dad book is based on the Money and You program. And it's based on the teachings of Buckminster Fuller, pretty much that the world is not educated to handle the world. And, so pretty much that's why that book was so big. And by the way, that was powered by a woman by the name of Sharon Lecter. So I spent 9 years with Kiyosaki and his wife. We built him up to a certain level and prepare him to run into somebody like Sharon Lecter, who took him to a whole other level and made that book into a worldwide sensation. The reason I'm saying this is because that's a very good example. It happened to me, it happened to Robert. When you team up with someone that is an expert at something, really good at what they do, then that helps you creating more wealth and creating wealth for some of you, not just more wealth, but creating wealth. So now you need to look at life the way that when you're spiritual, there is a deservability aspect. And that is when I was recommending to you that I want to give everyone a program that I did at the beginning of the pandemic called Recovery Magical Exercises. And this is what I did at 27. I was coming out of the legal system, and now I want to be of service. I want to be, and be able to really support humanity. And there was a clash that occurred. It was a clash in beliefs. So I had to build my deservability level by really discovering all of my family, generational family patterns, and how I came from a middle class family. And by the way, everyone was poor up until the mid 50s. Pretty much people were simple people. They just had a home, they had a job. A lot of people didn't have cars. In South America, we didn't have phones because it would take 5 to 10 years to install a phone. So where I grew up in San Diego, the only person that had a phone was the doctor, and it was a community phone. We all could use it in case of an emergency. And the phone was open to everybody in the neighborhood because it was the only phone in the neighborhood. Everybody else was waiting for a phone to be installed. So what you see there is that we were just coming out on the 50s. So most people were, very simple people. The whole idea of being wealthy, of having money, is a 45-year-old thought. Now, there are books like Think and Grow Rich and The Science of Getting Rich, and, Carnegie, Dale Carnegie, and, all the beautiful metaphysicians, and, they taught you all this wealth stuff, Think and Grow Rich. That was a little bit in the religious, kind of a little bit, being passed around in certain circles and for people that were interested in becoming more successful. But that didn't kick in until about 45 years ago on the planet, right on time for us to get started. So now what you're looking at, the spiritual young people, they have the same challenge that we had, which is to not have a high deservability level in order to allow wealth. So a lot of beautiful people that have beautiful product and services are happy with just enough, but the only challenge is that you can't grow your business, you can't hire people, you can't buy better marketing tools. And so the magical recovery exercises allows for you to clear a lot of those beliefs and thoughts and then choose clearly. So it's a combination. The business success model, the book, is going to give them the model, the business model. The magical exercises is going to support them in clearing the process. And then you then have to use the entrepreneurial tools, sales and marketing, people and organization, money and finances, and you better be really good at what you're good at. It is that combination, and then one more, understanding where are you in the process of what stage of money. Are you in the process of making money, or keeping the money that you managed to make, or are you growing the money that you managed to keep? Those are the 3 stages of money. So as you can see, it's a hologram. You can see it's multidimensional. And for people who are spiritual, it's much easier for them to understand this than when I'm just talking to a whole group in Singapore, let's say, or Malaysia, that they have religious, very clear religious, spiritual principles, but not at the level that many other people do. So, but I'm not just talking about Singapore, Malaysia, just all over the world. I
Right, not singling them out for sure.
no, no, because I have spent so much time there. I have lived there, so I bring them up, but they're not the only ones. So traditional business people all over do not have a tendency to have as much understanding of generalized principle as a spiritual person anywhere in the world, in any country. So that was a long yarn, as the Australians would say. It's a long sharing, but that gives you a sense of how much a spiritual person really needs to be grounded in order to allow themselves to have the level of wealth that they deserve. Because why should people that damage the environment, hurt others, create products and services that are so horrific for the world, why should they be the ones who make the money? What we have to do is socially responsible entrepreneurship, which my mentors, the people that I inherited my work from, literally created that training industry in 1978 with the first business school for entrepreneurs of its kind. Were the ones who put on the map that it was okay for people to be wealthy, training with Buckminster Fuller, and have huge businesses. And I have a whole list long as my arm of our graduates. Follow your heart products. You know, Ben and Jerry's, they did Money in You. Paul Mitchell, they did Money in You. Paul Mitchell did. And Tony Robbins was one of our students. Kiyosaki. You know, we have a long list. People will discover that soon when they go look me up. But more than anything else, I am the one that has been learning how to create environments to attract people like that then go out and leverage my purpose.
Yes, yes, that's awesome. That's always something that interests me. I mean, I'm always like, well, who are the people that are making a big impact that want to take it to the next level that I can support? I think that is such an awesome way of leveraging things. And I heard you on another show talking about this with the interviewer. I forget the name of the show, but whatever show it was, I just remember him saying that that's there's so many things you just covered. And one of the other things that comes to mind is that I think a lot of people get limited in not realizing that you don't have to have all this influence and ability to make a big difference in your mind already. All you have to do is be on fire and in your heart about what you're wanting to accomplish, and start mixing it up with the people that can help you, including the people that are already doing bigger things. But the old idea is like, well, they'll never listen to you. They won't want to play with you. They won't want to do anything. But I found that, to be so not true. Sometimes they're the most gracious, most giving people. Of course, there's people that don't want to, but there are people. And I think like people limit themselves. I think it's helped the social media environment. It's helped people to be like, oh, there's so-and-so, I could DM them or whatever. It's opening up. But I think people still are hesitant. They're shy. They don't think they're good enough and all that stuff. I think that's the one I see show up the most, is that's the idea they give. I think it's somewhat of a surface conversation of what's coming up for them. But they say, well, who am I and all that stuff. But I know in my own journey, like I at some point had to anoint myself. I'm saying, I'm ready. Okay, I just doesn't matter if I think I'm ready. So I think sometimes you have to, really just decide that you're ready, because no one else on the outside is going to give that to you. Ultimately, you have to decide, I'm meant to do this. I'm ready. I'm good enough. And it's okay to experience the sense of oh, I failed. This idea I failed. Like that didn't work so well. You have to experience that many times. That's growth. We can't experience growth without experiencing that. And the more you experience that every single day, the better. I mean, that's the more growth that we can experience. So I know I'm throwing a lot of things out there too here, Doria, but those are things that are coming to mind with what you're talking about. So I think people are afraid of making the mistakes. Then they don't experience learning and growth. And it's been said so many times, but I think people need to keep hearing it sometimes. You have to go ahead and just go for it and not hold anything back, because those books are right. When you just totally commit yourself to the path, you might have doubts, you might have fears, you might be like this sometimes, but you always come back to center and it's going to work out. So I'm sure with everything you teach it on the spiritual level, I'm sure teaches that, because those are some of the sort of universal principle is
Yeah.
really committing yourself, putting a stake in the ground. I'm as much it as Doria, or whoever, Tony Robbins or whatever. You're meant to do it. So I love any reflections you have on that. Yeah.
Well, there's only one Doria. That's me. There's
Right.
only one Tony Robbins.
Right.
There's only one Daniel.
Right.
So if you're truly spiritual, if you're really truly a spiritual person, you're going to trust. You're going to trust the dance. You're not running the show anyway. That's the whole core of being spiritual. That you, like Buckminster Fuller, and for those of you that may not know him, they can go to moneyandyou.com/Buckminster Fuller, Buckminster-Fuller, and they will find a library of resources for them to really get to know them. All of our work is based on his teachings. Our Money and You program, our live 3.5-day Money and You program, which of course we are on hold like everybody else. That particular program is all on the core teaching of his and 4 other masters. Now, one of the things that you need to understand is that you is a unique you. And one of the things Mr. Fuller used to say, you can be assured that if you commit yourself to the betterment of humanity, the Great Spirit will take care of you. So money, finances, wealth was also created by something much greater than us. It is a tool. And if you have any judgments about it, like judgments about anything, like right now, for instance, I think the greatest teacher of unconditional love right now is the leader of the United States and also some of the people around them, because there's so many feelings that come out from people. Now, the people who are supportive of the president, they have so many feelings that come out for them when they're looking at people from another party. If you're truly spiritual, you're going to get that this is a huge opportunity to really surrender to unconditional love. And what if this process that we're going through is going to take us to this other side? What if we are just at the core, at the pit of like, wow, that things that are happening that can be so horrendous. And when I go into reaction about it, I go into teachers of unconditional love. And what I'm finding in the last 7 months is that now I'm beginning to get to a place of understanding, and just know my beloved and I are activists. We don't sit around and just kind of, ponder on our belly button. We don't do that. We're very active, but we also are taking the opportunity to see the teaching in front of us. So you need to decide whether money is one of your teachers. Like I have a friend of mine that I have adored since I was 27 years old. It was thanks to him that I ended up meeting all these people that led me to doing the business school and led me to my new career at the time. He has never been able to manage money. He's the most beautiful spiritual teacher. He could care less. He just lives and just survives and sings songs and goes to India, has a beautiful guru, does whatever. He never runs out of money and he is in the flow. He could care less. He could care less. And he will die that way, and it doesn't matter. That is his life, that's his journey. His spouse, this beautiful woman that married him, understands him. She is entrepreneurial and takes care of him, and he takes care of her. So that's the way that it works for him. And then I have met other people, and remember, I work with a lot of leaders, and leaders always say to me, ask me, is an entrepreneur made or is an entrepreneur born? Actually, my experience is that it's an entrepreneur was born, maybe not made, but he or she can be discovered. There's a whole bunch of people that because of our educational system have not been given the opportunity or the legs for them to be entrepreneurial. So in our program like Money and You, or our online program that we're now developing to keep us going until live programs come back, one of the things that we do is support people in discovering whether they are entrepreneurial. And if they're not, they can be part of an entrepreneurial team. Because in any business, you need to have people who are the people selling, the leaders, but you need to have people in the background that are doing the accounting, are doing the delivering, are doing the quality control, they're connecting with the customers. And a lot of those people are happy to work from Monday through Friday, from 9 in the morning until 6 p.m. and have their weekends off and have 2 weeks vacation. Now, as an entrepreneur, I've never been that way. Nobody in my family has been that way. And there's no judgment. That is what they love. But their services can be so valuable that if you step into an organization that has profit sharing, there's no reason why they can grow wealth along with the entrepreneur at the head of it. And that is some of the shifts that we teach people. And I have an online program that I want to give you a link for you to offer to people. For 6.5 hours, I share with people how to build an entrepreneurial team, how to build an entrepreneurial company. And if you're an employee, you can learn all of this and take it to your boss and say, look, boss or business owner, I don't want to go off and create my own business. I love it here. I love your product. I love your service. I would like to be a very valuable part of this team. Can I share with you a bunch of tools? And if you increase your income by this percentage, would it be okay for me to get a small percentage of that? And if your business pivots and begins to use all these tools I'm going to give you, I would love to have a percentage of that. And I want to be a profit sharer and stay with you. And they'll go, wow, that is a great deal. There's nothing for them to lose. That's one way of becoming a very valuable employee. Or if you are an entrepreneur, but you want to learn from a master, what you can do is you can go to someone like myself and just say, I love what you do. I would love to spend the next 2 years, the next 5 years, learning from you, advancing you. And what I like to do is have your blessing that in 5 years' time, I'm going to go create my own business. I'm going to learn some of your systems. I am not going to take your brand. I am not going to steal anything from you. I just want to learn from you patterns of thinking. I want to be almost a protege. I want to be an intern, whatever you want to call it, but I want to be paid because I need money. I have a family. I need to feed them. So how is that? Absolutely. Do you know how many of those I have had? Quite a few of those are rich. They're wealthy. They came and learned, and then they went and created amazing things for themselves. It was clear. It was, see, the world is, you have a variety, you have a diversity of lifestyles. Yeah. If somebody wants to have 2 husbands, who am I to judge? Really, seriously, who am I to judge? If they're all happy, why do I care? They're not my husband and wife. Right. If somebody wants to create something else. So it is that way when you're truly spiritual and realize that God put money, put learning experiences, put some of the most horrendous people in front of you for you to learn unconditional love and for you to learn systems, put you and I in front of them right now. Who are you to argue with God? Who are you like? And I want to say this last story before the next thing, which is that I have a beautiful accountant. I just love her. And she is a preacher and she is a born again Christian. And she worked for me for a while, then went away and came back one day. And she says, I want you to know that Jesus sent me back to you. I had an epiphany and I learned bookkeeping. I am to spend the rest of my life taking care of you and your company and your money because I know you love and you trust me. And she says, so Jesus, send me back. And this is what I said to her. Who am I to argue with Jesus? And I hired her in Sylvia again.
Right,
She
right.
stayed with me 13 years doing exactly that. So who are you to argue with the Great Spirit? Gave you all these tools, all these gifts. Go to work using the tools that work and let go of what doesn't work.
Yeah, and you really need people really need support when it comes to building a business and the money. It's not something that we're given any training in when we grow up, you know. So that's something, again, a lot of people have heard, but it's true. And no one says, here's how you run a business. You go through a whole big thing, or or about money. Here's the nature of money. This how to be abundant with money. We didn't get that when we were younger. And then courses come along. We might even have taken some courses, but it's like, I don't think unless they work really deeply and intensively with it, ultimately, that it really makes that shift they're looking for. You have to really dedicate yourself to the study of it. You know, for me, I know I try to avoid the money a lot. You know, I've managed to still have success, still have my multi-six-figure business success and all that nice stuff and looking to grow. But like, I've tried to avoid money. I'm like, I'm spiritual. I just want to help people. I've done that thing like everybody else. And then I end up not being able to pay my bills and all this credit card debt. Like, okay, can't feed my family. I think I need, I can't avoid the teacher. The teacher's still there. Whoops. I say I'm fine without the money, but now it keeps knocking on my door. So I've become a teacher of money. I become a student of money. I become someone to help people to turn on their money energy and all that stuff and help them with their business. So because it was the thing that kept haunting me, every time I try to avoid it, I have to come right back to it. So if you feel like you keep trying to avoid money, like so many spiritual entrepreneurs do, you need to go deep with money. If anything, maybe you should be teaching about money ultimately at some point too. But start really intensively studying it. And I think it's beautiful too with what's happening with not to get again, it's a dicey subject, I guess, but with Trump or whatever. But we have like all the energy that's there to study. It's like you're going to master class and what's been happening. This has been happening. Now it's in your face. Now you got to deal with it. It's something you were, think it was great. Maybe now you don't. Maybe you think it is great now, whatever. But like whatever you think, it's like it's showing you something. It's showing you aspects you're probably supposed to embrace more and things you need to let go of, right? Just flush. Like, okay, let's let go of that. And so it's all part of the waking up process. And so I'm grateful that you brought that up. And it's all part of like creating these social entrepreneurs that are like really good with money, really good with businesses, so they can flourish and do great things. Because the people that have been really great at that so far that have grown the biggest are usually not so socially conscious in many cases. But if we can create more of that, then we can have more of that enlightened kind of wealth that we're looking for, where it goes beyond money. Money is always part of it, but whatever we're calling it at the time, right? But this currency of wealth and however it's being expressed during the time that is so critical. And that evolution of that, it's more energy. It's just more energy, and it helps us to expand. It helps us to expand. And when we expand, then more things are possible. Life gets funner, and we can partner up. And you're so right about what the prophet's saying. I just wanted to mention that. I have a mentor. He said he started giving 50% of his profits away to his employees, and his amount of money coming in went through the roof. So we think like if we give more away in the business and partner with people more, it's going to be like, wow, that's too much. And no, the more you give, it tends to pay off. And so I just wanted to double down on that too. But yeah, Doria, I mean, this is, there's so much to unpack here. I always feel like I want 5 or 6 episodes with some of my guests. But yeah, I mean, we're at a wonderful place. This is like a time that people will look back and remember, is my intention. And that people will say, man, remember we're going through all that stuff. Now look what we're doing. Like, this is great. There'll always be a next challenge, but we'll be like, wow, we got through that. Look what we've created now. And I think, you're part of the solution, the listener. You're part of the solution. We're all part of the solution. And we just have to say yes to money. We have to say yes to learning about business. We have to go deep with it. We have to quit trying to avoid it. And I think that's what you're brilliant at in part, Doria, is helping people understand these spiritual principles, learning about money and business, and just in your bottom line too. You got that bottom line energy that's so strong. You're just like, come on, no, let's go. So I love that about you. So anyways, that's what comes through my channel. I just share what comes through. So Doria, what more would you like to share with the audience? Time's flying by while we're having fun. What more do we want to share with them?
Well, I wanted to say, just to cover the thing about mistakes. So
Mm-hmm.
another teaching of Buckminster Fuller is, he said, there's no such thing as a right foot and a wrong foot. It's right foot, left foot, okay? So put one foot in front of the other and know that all mistakes were designed, human beings were designed to learn from their mistakes. It is our coding, our spiritual coding is designed for us to learn from mistakes. So there are certain personality types. There's a beautiful woman by the name of Carol Dysart. You should have her. She's a very spiritual, beautiful person. She's been with us for 40 years doing the DISC profile. And there's 4 different personality styles. There's many personality, profiles, but I loved this one. And, and there are certain people who hate to make mistakes. Nobody likes to make mistakes, but there's 2 of them that hate it, absolutely hate it. So they do anything to avoid making mistakes, where that is a mistake. Because in life, it is designed for us to make mistakes. So what you have to do is you have to accept those aspects of yourself. The other thing that I wanted to share with you, this is a tool that I have shared with people, and I do want to invite people to Fridays with Doria. Like every Friday, we started that in April. I started with the recovery magical exercises. That's where the link is going to take them to Fridays with Doria. And then what happened was that I began to have some of my closest friends are pretty big names. I grew up in the industry. Sometimes people say that I was their mentor. Well, I was too young to be their mentor. Tony Robbins was 23, I was 33. Yes, I did teach him about logistics. I did create his first, treasure map, and we hung out with him for a year and put him on his first airplane ride to go do firework walk, both in Colorado and in Hawaii. So we did influence him quite a bit. But honestly, we grew up together, right? So I know a lot of famous people, and they're coming to Fridays with Doria. And once you sign up for any program, you can go into the replay area. And in there, one of the things that I started to share with people is, and that evolved, by the way. So talk about putting one foot in front of the other. I started that to support all of our Money and New graduates. And then we didn't want to exclude anybody. My friends started saying, can I invite my friend? Can I invite my spouse? We all freaked out. Of course, you can invite them. So it became, somebody once said, about 3 sessions into it, somebody said, I love this Fridays with Doria and Friends. And I went, oh my God, that's the name of the series. It was like, we were planning 1 week and then the next week, and then let's do the next week, like that. And what ended up happening is that it became this platform. So there's an example of you putting one foot in front of the other. So one of the things that we do in our events and that we do in our lives is that we really understand that making mistakes is part of it, and that you need to realize also what you're not good at. So I recommend to everyone 3 lists. One of them, what you are good at. What are you really good at? And stay focused on that. Then make a list of everything that you're not good at. Now, during a pandemic, it's not a good idea to be doing that. You can do that later. Later, you can start getting good at what you're not good at. Right now, you need to be involved in income generating activities and creating leverage so that you can be ready for the big recovery, which is going to come, because this too shall pass. It will pass. Life goes up and down, up and down. So don't worry about it. It's going to pass. When you freak out, it's going to pass. All right. So start getting ready, be busy on doing good things. So you don't focus on the things that you're not good at. And then what I want you to do is to actually make a list of all the assets that you have, all the contacts that you have. I have a little book that you can find in Amazon called Access to Cash, the New Definition of Wealth, which is the new definition of wealth is having access to networks like this one. Having access to experts like the ones that you bring into people, having access to cash that you may be really surprised how much you have, what you could sell, what you have access to, that your family, access to investments, access to people that can support you when you're having a really bad day. Because as I learned very, very young, and it was my karma, my dharma, for the first 8 years of my adult life to suffer so much. And I channel all that suffering into being a workaholic, which, by the way, everyone in my family is a workaholic. We all love to work. We just love to work. Everyone in my family is productive. We don't have one lazy person in my family. I actually don't know any lazy people. I have heard of employees of mine having a spouse that was lazy and what it looked like. But in my reality, we don't have lazy people. It just doesn't happen. Everybody's productive and involved in something. Most of them are humanitarians. So now, including myself. So now you have to look around and look at the assets that you have because you are going to have a hard time at times. That's life. So I learned the hard way. The first 8 years of my life, I was in hell. I was in hell. So, but I channel all that energy into creating tremendous success for myself very, very young. So you can do that too. And now I've learned balance. I take time off and I meditate twice a day. As a matter of fact, today is my 11th year anniversary of having been a transcendental meditation student. And I haven't missed once. I can't imagine for the rest of my life, why would I miss meditating twice a day? It's like brushing my teeth.
Right.
I would not brush my teeth in the morning. I would not meditate in the morning and in the afternoon or evening. So I have all these habits and all these things that I have created for myself that actually uplift the frequency of others. And so now I focus on that. And I also focus on the accessibility of my life. So I recommend to people to make a huge list of all the assets and all the access. Assets? I had dental surgery, so I still recuperating from it. So it's access and assets. You know, what are the assets that you have? What are the things that you could sell and all that? Once you have those lists in place, what you now have is an inventory of yourself. And then, you know, with people like myself and the other beautiful masters and experts that you're bringing, learn from us and I will learn from you, because we can only be masterful in certain areas. There are no masters of everything on planet Earth. That's impossible. That's impossible. Not even the spiritual masters. If you were to look at any spiritual master, they can teach you meditation, they can teach you all these things, but we will find something that they're not masterful at. And that is not our job. Our job is to learn from masters what they're good at, not to judge them. We learn from them, and then we apply it to our own lives. So I think I pretty much cover everything that I would want to cover. You know, just understanding, you know, people will learn. They can go and do my online program. They can come later to our Money and You program, the online one, the live one. Now that you are connecting me to your beautiful network, now see, we're wealthier. Daniel, you're wealthier right now because you're connecting. When you come to Fridays with Doria, I want you to come so you can meet all the beautiful people. And And so you're wealthier and I'm wealthier by connecting with each other and connecting to each other. And I'm old enough now to have created enough wealth to last me for the rest of my life. And by the way, I'm going to live to be 140 years old because that's what Mr. Fuller said we would live to. And then you now can use these different resources, but get out of your own way. And you don't want to become an egotistical spiritual person.
Right.
Because that is the most horrendous of all the egos. The spiritual ego is pretty horrendous.
Yes. I mean, I could even, and there's different layers of that too. There's the obvious spiritual ego to people, but there's subtle layers of spiritual ego that I've definitely experienced myself. Definitely. You're like, and you have to watch. It's very subtle. The ego is not always. People think the ego is like this big thing you would notice all the time. But for the people, when you're in your ego, sometimes you don't realize you're in your ego. You just think you're just, whatever. I'm just being me, and it's this ego program going on, and things are running us, right? So we have to be mindful of that, for sure. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, yeah, being a spiritual rock star is about the deep embodiment and letting it just come on. Here we are, just letting it blaze and just let the energy just flowing in an amazing way. And yeah, just realizing, like you said too earlier in the interview, you said, we're not really controlling all this. You said something to that effect. And yeah, I think that's one of the big things of the ego. It's like, we're going to control this thing. We're going to make it happen. Well, yes and no. It's more like you're going to let it happen. You're going to let it happen. You're going to start getting out of your own way. You're going to let it drop in. You're going to start letting it happen by putting your focus and attention to it and letting it flow through you. And then you'll see it unfold. And the more you're willing to just be, as they say, full on in that way, then you're going to become that spiritual rock star, so to speak, right? So you're going to be that. Absolutely. So yes. So Doria, is any last words? I know you have all these wonderful gifts. You've never seen the guests. They have so many gifts to want to give. It seems one of the top gift givers, anyway.
Well, I have to tell you, one of my missions is to transform educational systems around the world and eradicate poverty and hunger. So you can actually see my leverage everywhere. Yeah. Kiyosaki is my leverage. Tony Robbins is my leverage. When I saw Tony doing that huge online event, I go, oh my God, I am leveraging myself. So you have to see everything for the gifts, for the miracles that they are, right? Yeah. So one of the things that every time, and what I want to do is, I want to uplift humanity's consciousness through socially responsible businesses. Yeah. What that means is that the more prosperous that you get, the more prosperous we all get. And let me tell you, I've been doing this for 41 years. The biggest joy. I don't think there is a day that goes by, including weekends, when I don't get an email, a text, a messenger, a Facebook, a LinkedIn message everywhere. There's 14 platforms that I'm in. When somebody doesn't send me a little love and tells me these things that have happened out of the programs that we have put on. And now Fridays with Doria is, every Friday at 5 p.m. California time, we get together for 90 minutes, and sometimes like John Gray of Mars and Venus went on for 3.5 hours. Nobody wanted to get off, and people watch that and they go, can we have them back again? I said, we'll have to get back again. One of the things that happens for people is that they have transformation when they apply the principles. So we don't set anybody up on a pedestal. I don't put anybody. I mean, there are certain people like Lynn Twist, who wrote the book, The Soul of Money, mm-hmm. who has done things that I don't know if I ever would be able to do, like set with women that had lost their whole families, 7 children, and they sat for 2 days wailing and crying and doing inner work in order for these women to get themselves back a little bit. Honestly, I still get chicken skin. I don't know if I have that kind of strength, because of all the loss that I had. I have a threshold of loss and pain, but that doesn't, see, that's one of my weaknesses. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm just a little bit of a wimp around that, but I'm really good at supporting all those people. I'm really good. I'm really good at empowering them, sending them money and doing all that, and loving them and educating them. And so I'm good at that. So I focus on that. So for me, it's very personal when I uplift humanity's consciousness, because it comes to me not only in loving messages, but the fact that I personally had something to do, even if it's this little, with that person, maybe pivoting just 1 degree, that by the time they land in their destination is halfway around the world.
Right.
And so that's all I have to focus on. Now, my ego, the way I handle my spiritual ego, we have a little saying, and when I've been to India many times, and when we did Money New programs in India, I had to apologize to all the people in India, because I said, long, long ago, when India used to be a really, really poor, because it's not anymore, I used to say, we're going to go to India and clean toilets. I said, so I apologize for saying that. So I still have that saying, because in the ashram, we did have to clean toilets. And so I have a saying, when I start getting a little bit fat-headed,
Yeah.
we have a saying inside me, which is, oh, it sounds like Doria is getting ready to go to India to clean some toilets.
Right, right.
And immediately, that's my key. You have to create keys to
Yeah.
bring yourself back.
Yes.
And I do sometimes, even though I can afford, and I have a beautiful lady that cleans my place. During the pandemic, I have been cleaning toilets, and it is good for me. It's good for me. Yes, she can come in with her mask on. You know what? We're going to clean toilets today. And so discipline, spiritual discipline, physical discipline, mental discipline, body discipline, and that, go back to the principles, and do not think the minute you think that you don't have an ego, that's your ego talking.
Yeah, exactly. I'm transcendent, I'm enlightened. Yeah, that's the ego talking. Absolutely.
Because if you're truly transcendent, you will be turning into light, and you will not care what anybody knows,
Right.
because ultimately that is the path, and we may never get there. Buckminster Fuller used to say, we may never have on a perfect pair of shoes, but how do we know what a perfect pair of shoes is? That is the Phantom Captain. That's the internal GPS that takes you to the most beautiful places. And it is a relationship internal. And everything around us is a reflection of the relationship that you're having with yourself. So Bucky also used to teach us that look at your environment to see the ripple effects that you have created, the precessional effects. If your life is filled with goodness and with good things, then you're probably doing a really good job. But if you have no money, you have poor health, you are battling, you're constantly calling your attorney to sue somebody, or doing anything that hurts another, you may want to take a look at your life. And I heard this at 27 years old. And trust me when I tell you, you're not talking here to an angel. I am an angel, you're an angel, and many people listening to this are angels. But I am a human angel. So I have made a lot of mistakes. I have hurt people by accident. I have to honestly tell you, I have not hurt anyone intentionally for a long, 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 long time. But when I do hurt someone by accident, and which I have, I apologize and I make amends. So nobody is perfect, nobody, as long as we are in a human body. So welcome to planet Earth, welcome to money, welcome to business, welcome to capitalism, but let's have it be conscious capitalism. Let's have it be socially responsible entrepreneurship, and let's make the world work. And I'll finish up with Buckminster Fuller's question that he left us. How do we make the world work for 100% of humanity in the shortest possible time through spontaneous cooperation without any ecological offense or the disadvantage of anyone. When you answer that question with your product or service, we will be going towards a world that works for 100% of humanity. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, right. And so it is. I love that. Oh, wow, Doria. So, yeah, just so amazing. So, from there, what I wanted to do is just have you. We're gonna put in the links in the show notes and all that for people to get the gifts. The money in you that has been huge, and wow, I can't even, all the things you said about people have used it. Robert Kiyosaki. Everybody that's been influenced by that and done so many things, and now you have a free ebook to give to them on that. So we're going to have that in there, and then tell us about the other things. Don't want to misspeak on the other gifts we're putting in there.
The recovery magical exercises to
Mm-hmm.
bring up your deservability level, so you allow yourself to have wealth, so you allow yourself to have health, so you allow yourself to be generous. And you have to clear generational beliefs and thoughts and decisions that you made very, very young by what you saw and experienced around you, very, very young. Most money decisions were made before we were 7 years old, from what we saw, from what we experienced. So not all people had my mamacita that took me to the bank and showed me how to open up a savings account and explain banking to me. My mother was extraordinary. Most people have an attachment to money that, and for those of us that have had tremendous loss, we know that money can never bring them back. I had 2 miscarriages. There wasn't enough money in the world to bring back my babies. So we get money real clear, real clean. It's just a means of exchange. So the recovery magical exercise are going to help. And then, of course, I want to invite people to do my online program. It's called Access to Cash. And it is an online program, and we'll have a link there for people. And basically 6.5 hours, me being a real mamacita, almost a grandmother, talking and how to do business. But if you look at the results of our graduates, we have some pretty groovy graduates that use these principles. Ben Cohen of Ben and Jerry's, like, we could go on to some pretty big names. Yeah. And not just money and you, but they started on the path. But I'm very grounded on principles and on systems. So I'm going to teach you a whole bunch of systems. It's a business course, but I can't help myself talk about spirit and doing good and being a humanitarian. So it's a great thing. And then, as people come to Fridays with Doria, then we're opening up the network for them and introducing them to people like David Fagan and Isabel, where we met, with the masterminds. I love those masterminds and I support that. So I am a portal, and the bulk of my network is in the Asia Pacific region. And no, you never heard of me because I have been in the background. So I have been the one pulling all the strings. So you heard a lot of the people that we have gotten famous and that we have worked and supported and all that. And so, I'm part of one of the founding members of the Transformational Leadership Council, TLC, which is all, the really big famous transformational leaders. But I am kind of like in the background. So Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen, John Gray, all those people, they're my buddies, and I have access to them. And you never heard of me because I chose that long ago. Now they want me to come out more and more. And that's
come on out, Doria. It's time for you to shine your light in a way where you are known.
Shining my light. I just
right. In a way, but in a way that really people get to know more about you, right? So they even more people are like, oh yeah, Doria, we all know her.
Doria like Gloria.
Yeah, exactly. It's happening. So I feel that is part of what's unfolding. I really feel that. So we'll put all the links in, and there's a lot of things to take a look at, but definitely the moneyandyou.com, and we'll put all the rest in there. But that's a clear one for people to remember. Moneyandyou.com. Let's do this money thing. Okay, free ebook. It's been hugely successful. and helping so many people, including the big names out there. So anyway, so I'm so grateful for that, and thank you. And then the last thing I do on the show, I don't know if you realize this, I do a quick, just a minute or two, but I like to usually do a quick intuitive scan of someone to see if I do have some additional nuggets for you. Would you like me to share briefly?
Oh, yes, please. I love that.
All right, great. So I'm going to go back on a thread I just said. Like I said, oh, I see this for you. So yeah, as I tune into that, I feel like, yeah, I feel like some of your, and it's all by purpose and design. It's all been perfect. But I feel like there is some of this energy that was sort of a safety energy that kept you behind the scenes, but it was part of your purpose. I'm not making it right or wrong or whatever. It just is. But I feel like you're getting into this place where it's, increasingly you are meant to be in this spotlight. Not that you haven't been. You have been. I mean, you can't do all the things you do not be in the spotlight. But I feel like you're spiraling up into a greater visibility even for you. It's funny. I've talked to not nearly as many as you, but I've talked to a lot of people with a lot of impact, and some of them still, they still feel like they're not very well known, even if they're almost household names. I mean, they still feel like I'm still not that much, which is good for the ego, maybe, right? But like no, but I see it spiraling up, and then I also feel like. Yeah, you're huge with philanthropy, obviously, but I feel there's more coming with that. I feel like there's more. I don't know if you already have some organizations built for that.
It's coming.
Yeah. And I feel like that feels like it's growing. Definitely, that feels like it's growing. I see like these young girls going to work on stuff. Like they look like Asian girls. Is that already happening, or is that coming?
It's happening, and I have a whole thing on for young women. Very accurate, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah. So I see that percolating, and that it's like they're creating their own prosperity is the feeling I'm getting, right? So I just feel so good, and I feel like but I think part of your purpose here at this time in your life is moving towards Doria is the one that's well known now, like even more so. So I think like the best is yet to come for you, and I see that for you. And let's see if I get anything on your chakras real quick to share. Yeah, the throat keeps coming up. So I feel like as much as you're good at speaking, you're the most communicative person at Top Talent. I mean, you're very communicative, but I think there's this deep power and soul message you have that is still budding up. Like there's all this energy when I come up and through. It's like, and so it just feels like there's more. Take maybe more time to get into the detail, whatever that is. But I feel the energy, just like, and it's all from this beautiful path you've been on, from the wounding and the evolving and everything. And so it's just a beautiful thing. So I just wanted to share a few things with you today, Doria.
Oh, that was so accurate. So accurate. Thank you so much. I am kicking and screaming to not go and become any more well-known. And but the world was supposed to have done a few things I haven't been done. And part of I do have a whole thing about young women, in the sustainability, the 16 goals. And there has been all these studies. The number one thing that's going to bring up the world are women, especially young women. So I have been planning on creating a whole curriculum for them to start very young. And because it is in our DNA as women to become more sharing. And it has already been studied that particularly in emerging countries, you have all these women that what they do is they bring back all of their gifts and their wealth back to the community. It is in our DNA. So that was very, very accurate. And I am moving in that direction. So whatever happens, happens. I just know that I still have to make the time to be resting and to be with my beloved, yes, and be with my mamacita. I still have a 95-year-old mamacita, and to be with family.
Yes.
So thank you.
Just remember, and this is just like those reminders we all give each other, right? Remember, there's no conflict there. There's no conflict between you having all of that and this happening as well. So in fact, it's the opposite. It's always the opposite, right? Isn't it, Doria? It's always the opposite. We think like this is this can't happen because of, no, it's just the opposite. It's going to happen even more because of that. It's sort of like that. And but so thank you for being so gracious, and you're sharing today, so generous, and I'm so grateful. And then I just want to remind our audience that you could check out everything I've got going on at yoursacredpurpose.com. There's a free meditate, make money meditation. It works. It works for me. It works for the people that use it. I got people telling me they're just making more money in part just by listening to meditation, because it just gets you in the right energy. So check that out. And I also do energy scanning for people that are good fit for potentially working with me. So you can find all that on my website at yoursacredpurpose.com. And that's all for today. So I'm just grateful for you, Doria, and I'm looking forward to rocking on from there with you and with everybody. And just much love to you, and many blessings. And that's
Aloha.
It.
Aloha. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. And everybody keep on tuning in. We'll keep on rocking it here on Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till next time. Goodbye.
You're listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.